Välkommen! Du lyssnar på avsnitt 202 av Lottapodden, en podd från svenska Lottakåren med mig, Maria Öst. Rysslands fullskaliga invasion av Ukraina är inne på sitt fjärde år. Ukrainarna kämpar varje dag för att fortsätta vara den suveräna stat de är. Krig är fruktansvärt och kvinnor är extra utsatta. Sedan mars 2023 har svenska Lottakåren samlat in medel som via Kvinna till kvinna lämnats över till organisationen Women's Perspective. Och det har hjälpt dem att betala hyra för skyddade boenden och tillse basförnödenheter för de kvinnor och barn som bor där. I det här avsnittet berättar Tania Konokh från Kvinna till kvinna om situationen för kvinnor i Ukraina och hur de påverkas av kriget. Bland annat så skapar det ständiga hotet hög stress och har gjort att mentala hälsoproblem har ökat kraftigt. Och även om det finns kvinnor som tjänstgör i det militära försvaret är det främst män som gör det. Och därmed står kvinnorna med hela ansvaret för barn och äldre släktingar. Dessutom har många flytt ockuperade delar av landet och har behövt starta om sitt liv i en annan del av Ukraina eller i ett helt nytt land och vet inte om de någonsin kommer kunna återvända till sina hem. Så häng med in i samtalet som är på engelska och lär dig mer om situationen i Ukraina, varför det på engelska heter Ukraine och inte the Ukraine och hur civilsamhället bidrar till motståndet. Tania, welcome to Lottapodden.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Just so the listeners know who they're listening to, tell them a little bit about yourself.
My name is Tania. I am from Ukraine. Currently, I am based in the capital of Armenia, in Yerevan, and I work for the Kvinna till Kvinna Foundation in our South Caucasus and Eastern Europe office.
And what do you do?
Here, my job is a program officer. So I am program officer for Ukraine. And just to give you a brief idea of what I do, I'd say that there are several parts to it. One part of it is maintenance of the partner portfolio. So what it means in practice is that we support partner organizations, women's-led, women's rights organizations in Ukraine. And at the moment, our portfolio consists of 7 partners. To whom we provide support. So my job as a program officer is to maintain our relationship throughout the whole cycle, which means that the partners submit their applications, presenting their ideas about what projects they want to do, what kind of support they want to provide to the women and children in Ukraine. And then I review those applications, I review their work plans, I review the budget. We have the finance officers who take a very close look at those budgets, but I do the general overview. And I approve their work plans, and then I support them throughout the whole cycle of the implementation. So I check in with them to see how the program is going, and with the situation in Ukraine changing so rapidly and everything being dependent on the active hostilities, you sometimes need to adjust during the program. So this is also what I do. Then we come to the cycle of the reporting period, which means the partners have already implemented their planned activities for the year. So they report, and then again, I check the reports, and we have the discussion about how you did this year, what you implemented, what went well, what you would like to improve next year. So all this kind of thing. So that's one part, the program as it is right now. And the other part is also jointly with the team, with our regional director, we develop or design the program for the future. So we sit together and we think where we want to take the Ukrainian program as well as other regional programs further. So what future we see for the program, what kind of partners we would like to take on board, which direction is the direction where Kvinna could bring its highest value. So this is this design part, expansion part. And there is also another interesting aspect of my work, which is connected with the regionality of the program. And here probably I will have to take one step down and explain a bit about how our office functions. So when you were talking to my wonderful colleagues, Masha, I think it was a year or 2 years ago, the whole Ukrainian program was managed centrally from the head office in Stockholm. So it was the part of this central team. And in October last year, the Ukrainian program was moved to the South Caucasus and Eastern Europe office. At that moment, it was like South Caucasus, and now it is South Caucasus and Eastern Europe. So the Ukrainian program landed there, and now it is a part of our regional portfolio. So what my colleagues and I try to do, we try to see some value points. We try to leverage this regionality, and we try to put together some partners to see what they have in common. Maybe there are some projects that they could do together. And to give you a specific example, last December, we brought together the 3 disability rights organizations from the region. So one from Ukraine, one from Armenia, and one from Georgia. And we brought them together for a kind of experience exchange meeting. And it was an amazing opportunity for them to sit at the same table and to share their experiences, the grievances, what they've been through. And it was also amazing to see how they like spoke the same language. You understand that we were speaking like 3 or 4 different languages in the room, but at the same time, because it is the area of expertise that they all share, they immediately understood what it is that they were talking about. So they shared lots of experiences, including the legislation, including the challenges that they have in terms of how disability is unfortunately still perceived in many countries, especially in the post-Soviet region, and tried to think about how they could work together in the future. So this is the part of regionality that we really like, and that we try to promote in our work as much as we can. So basically, these are the 3 things that I focus on.
So quite a broad perspective of things that you're managing then.
Yes.
And I suspect that there must be, like in any jobs, ups and downs, but for you, a lot of harsh reality as well with the situation as it is in the Ukraine today. How do you and the office work with that to keep the hopes up, to keep the good work going?
Yeah, it's not an easy question, and there is no easy answer to that. And then, if you don't mind, I would like to start because I'm a linguist by training, and I would like to start, and I do hope that you do not take it personally, with the correction that we don't say the Ukraine, because it was the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic as a part of the old legacy, and now as an independent state, we are Ukraine. And coming back to your question. Kvinna traditionally works in difficult environments. So we work in the conflict-affected areas, be it the active hostility stage, as it is now in Ukraine, or it is the post-conflict environment, which anyway is a difficult environment to be with. So when you get into this sort of job, you kind of know what you are getting into. And how we manage to keep things going, I think I draw lots of strength and energy, and yes, I think inspiration will be the right word from the work that partners are doing there on the ground. And it's amazing to see how we have managed. I mean, yesterday we marked the sad, tragic 3rd anniversary of the full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation, and the war it's been dragging since 2014. So it's amazing how we have managed, and having lived in Ukraine for almost 2 years during the war, I know it by myself, that we have managed to normalize many of the things that happen, and just do our best to get on with our lives in the best way possible. So the amazing thing is that the partners programming has not stopped. Yes, it has adjusted, but it has not stopped, and they carry on to the best of their abilities. I mean, we can say that in the first year, and that was true, and I think you must have heard it a million times already, that in the first year, everyone has shifted their efforts to the humanitarian, the emergency response, because so many people have lost their livelihoods, their homes, and they were scared, and there was so much stress. And this was also true for our partners who moved on from providing one set of services to just a basic emergency response. But it is also heartwarming to see that now they're coming back to their let's say regular expertise, and they even build plans, which is very difficult in the current situation, but they build plans, which usually include plan A, B, and C. And they start more strategic planning in terms of not how we're going to survive till the end of the year, but what we could do next year, the year after, and so on. So I think that the recipe is to always stay alert for all the developments. So to really be on the ground if you're not physically there, and to keep up the work that you've been doing to the best of your abilities at this very moment.
And what is the situation for women in Ukraine right now?
This is such a complex question, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my knowledge and abilities, but let me start with a caveat that it is not going to be an exhaustive answer at all. I think this is something we could talk about for hours on end and invite so many experts to weigh in on many aspects. So I think that we have to keep in mind here several things which will help to describe the situation of women these days. I would definitely start with the physical safety and security situation, because we know that the active hostilities are still on. We know that a fifth of the country is occupied, including Crimea, temporarily occupied Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhia, and the Kherson regions. This being said, we also know that the war is not only happening along the front lines, but almost everyone in Ukraine is affected to this or that extent, meaning that aerial raids and attacks, they have been and they remain, unfortunately, very frequent and very common. So the missile strikes and drone attacks happen almost on a daily basis, which means that no one can feel absolutely safe if you are in Ukraine, no matter where exactly you are. So this is this relative safety that we can talk about. And it means that there is lots of stress and anxiety for people living in Ukraine. And if you are a mother and if you have children, and if you also take care of the elderly relatives, which is still often the case. So this is the part that women typically take care of. So you can imagine that this stress doubles or triples for you. I mean, the kids who go to school, dependent on where you are, which municipality or locality it is, there are strict security protocols for how kids attend schools. Have to have shelters that will be easily available in case of the air raid alert. Then there is probably you have heard they have even opened the first underground school in Kharkiv, which is situated 30 kilometers from the front line. So these security aspects, or should I say insecurity, generates lots of stress, and especially for women who have become the heads of the families during this time. And we can see it in the spread of the mental health problems, so the demand of mental health support. And we can see it throughout the country, both on the national level, like there is this initiative of the First Lady, Mrs. Zelenska, who initiated this all-Ukrainian program of mental health Yakti, which means how are you, trying to break these persistent stereotypes that being not okay is okay, that mental health problems does not mean that you are a nutcase, that it just means that we all go through the difficult time and we all could use some help. So we can see it, as I've said, both on the national level, but also on the level of the programming of our partners, who always include this component of mental health, social support in their programming. And it resonates with Kvinna because it's one of the strategic focuses that we have, provision of the holistic security to women and human rights defenders, which means that if you want to take care of someone else, first you have to be able to take care of yourself. And this is something that we never tire repeating that we have to take care of ourselves. So that's one part of it, this mental health component. And the other one is that with so many men who have joined the army to protect the country, let me also add something here that the Ukrainian army at the moment is not a monogender army. We do not have the accurate figures because during the martial law it is still a state secret, but there are about 66 to 68,000 women serving in the army, of which about 40,000 are in military positions, because we know that the armed forces also include the civil positions. So 40 are in the military positions and about 5,000 are in the active fighting zone. And there's been this change of perception in terms of defenders, not only being a he defender, but also a she defender. And there is this recognition at the level of society that all of us contribute to this task of defending our country, which is also interesting in terms of we have this holiday, the national holiday, the 1st of October, which is the day of defenders of Ukraine. And Ukrainian, as all Slavic languages, it is this language that differentiates with the help of endings the gender, he or she. So we all say День захисників і захисниць, meaning the day of both male and female defenders of Ukraine. So this is kind of recognition at the national level that we all contribute to this. And speaking about the armed forces, we can also mention the sector of defense, like in the national police, according to the available figures, about 30% are also women. The state border guard service, 17%, which is not so high, but still this is a substantial representation. So I will now come back to what I was saying before. So there are so many men who have joined the army, which means that women have had to take up this new role for them, which is the role of not only mother in the family, but also the main provider in the family, the main support, the pillar, which also causes lots of stress, as we understand. And another thing I would like to mention in this respect is, of course, the spread of gender-based violence, which has been a significant problem in Ukraine for a very long time. And now the situation is further exacerbated by the crisis. So it has revealed all the pre-existing problems and conditions. And we also have to face up to the fact that there is also the increase of conflict-related sexual violence, and the cases of domestic violence are also on the rise. So this is another component that further complicates the situation for women in Ukraine. And again, this is something that we see both on the national level, I mean the availability of programs for women who seek support. And it is also vivid in the programming of our partners, because so many of them address specifically this issue and provide both psychological support, but also legal support, because there are already these legal avenues, the mechanisms in place that help women to go through this situation and to find the support and to find very specific steps of what women can do as survivors of violence. The Istanbul Convention was ratified in Ukraine in 2022, amazingly during the first year of the war. It also came into effect the very same year, which provides additional available mechanisms for protection of survivors. So this, I would say, would be the second important thing to highlight. And another one is, of course, economic situation, because well, the situation is really difficult. There are different figures, but the many international sources put the number of IDPs, the internally displaced persons inside the country, at around 4 million, and the number of refugees who fled the country altogether and who found new homes elsewhere in Europe, elsewhere in the world, at about 7 million. And what it means is that we have had very significant leak of the workforce, which means there is a significant lack of the available workforce in Ukraine. If we talk about the refugees, so the people can either find some hybrid ways of working and continue doing something in Ukraine, but mainly the people just build or rebuild their lives in a new country. And for IDPs, again, everything depends on where you are running from and where you come, but typically it is inside Ukraine. The west of Ukraine was the first place that received the biggest wave of refugees. Now we can also see people relocating in the center of the country, but what it means in practice that you were completely uprooted from your common environment, from your home. You do not know whether you have a home to come back to with so much destruction around. And people have to start anew, and you can imagine how difficult it is for women who find themselves in a completely new city where they have to find a new job and to put kids to schools, kindergartens, and university. And so on the one hand, you have this huge lack of the workforce, but on the other hand, the opportunities for women are still very limited because the infrastructure is not there. We do not have enough kindergartens, safe, secure kindergartens. We do not have childcare facilities, and therefore women have to provide for their families, but at the same time, we don't have the necessary mechanisms in place to support them. And also this is been addressed at the national level with all the programs like training programs, retraining programs. There are numerous grants from international organizations, but also from the government for women to be able to start their own businesses, small businesses, and to get some support. So to summarize, I would say that the situation remains very difficult, and it is further compounded by the aggression that is ongoing. But at the same time, in some way, it gave a very significant push or impetus, this big drive for change that I hope is irrevocable. And these strategies that are put on the national level, like the strategy for elimination of the gender pay inequality, or the strategy for achieving the gender equality for 2025, 2030, and so on. So all these things, they testify to the fact that yes, we are moving in the right direction, but of course it takes time.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around and trying to understand the situation. It's just unimaginable for someone that's not in it, I think. We hear the stories, and I hope as well that Ukraine feels the support that all of us are giving. But to truly understand it's just not possible, I think.
Yes, what you say is so true. And I remember I once heard the interview. I've started talking about this gender equality issue in Ukraine. And for 6 or 7 years, we have had this official position, like the Office of Governmental Commissioner for Gender Equality. And Ms. Katerina Levchenko is our commissioner. And in one of the interviews, and she's very active on the international stage talking about the situation in Ukraine, and in one of the interviews she said a thing that deeply resonated with me. That she says that all the partners, the international ones that I always talk to, they keep coming back to me with one and the same question: how do you do it? How do you keep holding on? How do you keep producing documents, trying to push through the reforms? And how do you just keep doing it? Because I understand that it's unimaginable until you come and live it. It's just difficult to imagine. And I remember yesterday we marked the sad anniversary, and I remember this day 3 years ago, I was still living in Serbia, where I had lived for almost 9 years before the full-scale invasion started. And early in the morning on the 24th, I was supposed to have my annual health checkup, which is a thing that I was very particular about. And early in the morning, I received a video from my sister with tanks rolling in our region and the city. And I am from the city in the north of Ukraine called Chernihiv, and it borders on the Republic of Belarus, which is where the forces entered the northern part of Ukraine. And my sister was coming back from work outside of the city, and this was what she witnessed, and it was unimaginable.
Yeah.
Been away, been in a different country, been in a safe place. I was watching the video and I couldn't just comprehend what was happening. And then all the horror started, and the communication became very scarce. And then when I managed to put my family on the phone, it was something that I still couldn't comprehend, to hear the artillery fire, to hear the air raid alert in the background. And it is until you come and live it, it is something that you cannot imagine. So I understand the feelings completely.
So what we just talked about, I mean, the stories coming out of Ukraine is that one of the factors the country is still standing strong is the support of its citizens. So does Ukraine, like Sweden, have a tradition of citizens working together in civil society organizations?
This is a wonderful question, and we can see how it brings close our countries and our societies. Yes, so the civil society organization and the civil society movement has been strong in Ukraine for a very long time. For example, the women's movement marked its 140th anniversary last year, so we can see that it dates back like really long time. But the other thing that I would also like to highlight is this one of the things that we have found out about ourselves since the start of the full-scale invasion of Russia is this powerful, unbreakable volunteer movement. And it is something that has become, I think, from now on, a part of our DNA, because since day one, when we were all at a loss, confused, scared, but still since day one, people managed to self-organize to such an amazing extent that keeps surprising me up to this day. And people self-organized to do everything. So to find transport, to provide transportation, to evacuate people, to find medicines, to cook for the servicemen, to keep a night watch in the cities and whatnot. And we up to this day, we keep donating money to various organizations, and we keep collecting funds for everything that is necessary on this grassroots person-to-person level. And the movement has not become weaker, and up to this day we can see how strong this trend is. So people still self-organize. Of course, if you look like at the budgets and the budgets that are provided by the government and the international partners, of course it will be like this negligible part, but at the same time people still understand that in order to that we are all in this together, and to come out of it, we have to stay strong and together till as long as we can and as long as we have to. So this is the thing that was true 3 years ago, was true 11 years ago, and is still true today. This power of movement that unites people.
I mean, all of this solidarity is just wonderful to see. I remember yesterday, of course, with the anniversary, as you mentioned, of the full-scale invasion, there was a piece on the news yesterday in Sweden about what, I mean, looking back at the 3 years and what's happening right now. And there was a young woman, she was an engineer student. And, you know, as part of her daily routine, she did her homework, she went to school. And then she built drones because she wanted to help, and it's just so fantastic to see that, you know, I'm still building for the future, but I'm also very, very involved in helping and supporting here and now, because otherwise I'm not going to have a future in this country. So it was a nice picture of how, you know, something that could seen as something very, very small and tiny can actually help when a lot of people are doing it.
Yes, yes, this is very true, and it's the thing that we all feel that what I do is such a tiny thing, but when you put
Mm,
together all these tiny things, you in the end make a difference, and
mm,
this is actually what makes a difference. And what you just said also reminds me of a story related to another partner organization that we are supporting in Kharkiv, which has experienced since day one of the full-scale invasion very difficult security situation, and they are this queer rights organization promoting equality. And one of the things that they did throughout the programming was to collect the stories of women and to publicize the stories of
mm,
women who in this or that way contribute on a daily basis to victory. And they were not only, these high profile stories
mm,
of a drone operator on the front line. They were the stories of these, let's say, ordinary people like zoo volunteers. So the person
mm,
who evacuates pets from
mm,
the frontline areas, or a psychologist in a community, or a web designer. So they were like these regular folks that you and I meet in our
mm,
daily lives. And they collected all the stories. I don't remember how many exactly there were, about 10, let's say. And they made an information campaign about how all these women contribute to victory. And this is how they called their information campaign. I am the victory, я перемога.
mm,
And when they reflected on this campaign, so it ended and it was successful, and then they reflected on the campaign, they said that one of the most unexpected things was how difficult very often it was to get these women to talk, because
mm,
each one in an almost rehearsed manner repeated one and the same thing. But I am not a heroine. They
yeah,
are the heroes. Those people on the front line, they are the heroes. I have done nothing special. And like a refrain, it kept coming
mm,
up again and again. And this is exactly how it feels like. What I do, it's
mm,
not important. I have not done anything outstanding. But when you put together all these small pieces, all these not outstanding things,
yeah,
you get to this outstanding future that we are trying to build together.
yeah. Everyone can do something, even if it's just
Exactly.
seems like a little small thing, but everyone can do something. Yeah,
Exactly.
so powerful. So, okay, so my organization, Svenska Lottakåren, is raising funds for one of Kvinna to Kvinna's partner organizations, Women's Perspective. Can you give us a little something about their work? And I suppose their focus has changed as well since the full-scale invasion.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So, Women's Perspective is an outstanding, very famous, prominent Ukrainian organization. So, they date back to 1996 or 8. So, they've been around for a long time, and they've had the main focus of their activity as promoting gender equality in all aspects of our lives. Combating gender-based violence, including domestic violence, combating human trafficking. And women's perspectives work on several levels, which is one of the things that explains why they have been so successful in what they do. So they work, one of the levels that they work on is this direct services for women. So they provide services directly to those who need them, including the legal consultations, psychosocial support. They provide shelters for survivors of violence, training that you need. So that's one level. The other level is policy level, because of course we understand that to bring about serious changes in the society, they have to be legislated. And they work a lot on raising awareness about the violence issues. They work a lot with state authorities, including providing training for like law enforcement, because they are the ones who would typically receive the calls and who would handle these cases. They work a lot with civil servants, trying to shape these policies together. And of course, they are also engaged in monitoring of legislation. For example, since the implementation of the Istanbul Convention, there have been some amendments to it, and they work closely to monitor what these changes are, how they translate into practice. So that's another important level. And the last, but let me highlight not least, is prevention. So they work a lot with information campaigns and education campaigns. They speak on TV, on radio about all the ways that we have at our disposal, not to fight, but to prevent cases of violence. And as you have rightly said, the full-scale invasion in 2022 brought a lot of change to their work as well. So the shelters that I've mentioned earlier, that they have for women who were survivors of violence, and vulnerable women also with children. So these shelters were almost overnight turned into shelters for IDPs, so for people who were fleeing the areas closer to the front lines. And they managed to open, they started from one, and then they opened 6 or 7 shelters that were and still are filled to capacity, and they continued providing basic emergency services to these groups of population, including provision of hygiene kits, basic necessity kits for women and children, and so on. As we have also mentioned, so now that we have kind of normalized this new reality, as many other actors, women's perspectives come back to their regular programming. And the project that we are supporting is this amazing and innovative idea that they had. It is also related to combating and prevention of domestic violence. And they came up with this innovative approach, how to handle cases of domestic violence, because typically you would, as a victim, you would have to talk to separately a lawyer to talk you through the whole process, what kind of protection you have, what you need to go to the court. And then separately, because this is an immense trauma for you, you would be talking to a psychologist trying to bring yourself in shape to be able to handle all this. And what they did is that they put together this wonderful duo of a psychologist on the one hand and a lawyer on the other hand, who jointly work on cases now. And they saw lots of benefits to such a comprehensive approach, because the psychologists were able to see the situation from the legal point of view, and the legal professionals were able to see the other person's point of view. And this cooperation brought lots of practical benefits. So they now support such cases comprehensively, and they train these duos, these pairs, on how to improve the response to the domestic violence, and then they roll out the practice across the country. So they have these pairs from 20 regions of Ukraine, and they continue rolling out this innovative and highly beneficial practice. It's really life-changing to see the results that they bring. And also it's important to keep in mind that unlike the emergency sector, for example, where the deliverables are almost immediate, like you deliver some basic necessities to people and you can see the relief immediately. And when I was working in the emergency response in the south of Ukraine, this was exactly the response that I received. And here we invest more in the structural changes, and this is exactly this kind of approach that women's perspective is implementing, because these are the changes aimed for long term. They will change the perception, they will change your way of thinking, and luckily it will seep into the legislation, and this is how it will be handled in the future. So this is something really inspiring, because this is what helps Ukraine become stronger in the long term and protect women much better.
So as we talked about earlier, and you mentioned, it's been 3 years since the full-scale invasion and over 10 years since the occupation of Crimea. So why would you say is the most important thing that we all can do to support Ukraine?
In Ukraine, we tend to discuss everything that is happening. So there is lots of information which is easily available, and we have all the means to access it and to discuss it. So the information about getting support from international partners is always in the media, and it is always highlighted. And when you go to some social media channels, so such news, they always start with two flags, like the flag of Ukraine and the flag of the international partner who has provided support of this time. And it has warmed my heart so many times to see Ukraine with or next to so many other flags from across the world, which means that there are so many people from so many countries standing in solidarity with us, that this is one of the things that keeps me going. And this is the thing that I would say is so important today, after all this time, that we still get support from ordinary citizens, not only from the governments, but also on the level of ordinary citizens from all over the world. And this is something that I would like also to ask for in the future. Please stand with us. We cannot do it alone, and please continue standing by our side with all the gratitude for everything that everyone has already done.
Tania, thank you so much for helping us understand the situation in Ukraine right now, and especially for women. And of course, we'll continue to stand with you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
När jag hör Tania berätta blir det väldigt tydligt hur viktigt det är med ett starkt engagemang från medborgarna när ett land utsätts för något så fruktansvärt som ett krig. Staten har ju som sitt yttersta ansvar att skydda sina invånare, men om vi inte står upp för vårt land, då finns det ju ingenting kvar att försvara. Vi slipper slåss för våra fri- och rättigheter till skillnad mot Ukraina, men vi står stadigt i vår övertygelse att fred, frihet och mänskliga rättigheter är värda att försvara. Och i det så ingår solidaritet med andra som kämpar för sin, och faktiskt vår, möjlighet att fortsätta vara demokratier. Om du funderar på hur du kan bidra till Sveriges motståndskraft, så är svaret att det minsta lilla bidrar. Men ett sätt är att engagera dig i en civilsamhällesorganisation, till exempel Lottakåren. Lästips relaterat till det vi samtalat om i det här avsnittet, inklusive hur du kan bidra till Lottakårens insamling Ögat hjälp oss att se och stötta kvinnor i Ukraina, det hittar du på lottapodden.se. Lottapodden den är producerad av Svenska Lottakåren, och vi är en frivillig försvarsorganisation som engagerar och utbildar kvinnor som vill göra skillnad i vardag, kris och krig för att stärka samhällets beredskap och totalförsvaret. Om du, precis som Svenska Lottakåren, tycker att fred, demokrati och mänskliga rättigheter är värda att försvara och du vill vara med och göra skillnad för vårt samhälles beredskap och totalförsvar, men då ska du gå till svenskalottakåren.se. Där hittar du information om hur just du kan göra skillnad. Och tack för att du lyssnar. Hej så länge!